Oklahoma Sooners fans, college football fans, welcome into another very special and completely packed show tonight. This is Oklahoma Sooners Live on Oklahoma at the Voice of College Football. I'm your host, Josh Mahler. You can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Real Josh Mahler. Go check me out over there for all of my coverage on the Oklahoma Sooners, satirical posts, so much more. So go check me out over there if you want to follow. And of course, follow the Voice of College Football on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X, you name it. Go follow us over there. And of course, you can find this podcast also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Very excited to get into it tonight. For some reasons, not so excited for other reasons. It's a packed show tonight for sure because there was a ton going on in the state of Oklahoma, and we are going to get to all of it. But first, if you want to help support the show, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. 2 free and easy, quick ways. And then, of course, jump in the live chat tonight. I'll try to keep my eyes glued over to my left so I can keep an eye over there for the chat. So jump in the live chat if you want to throw any comments, concerns, questions, add to the show, take away from the show, whatever it is, jump over in the live chat. Love to get to it here in just a moment. And of course, if you want to help support the show a little bit further, we do have a membership program for those who want to help support us keeping on growing. You can join the membership program for as little as $2.99 a month to help this show keep on growing. Again, as low as $2.99 a month. That link is down in the description below, or you can click that little QR code over on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Not click it, I guess you can scan it. So, of course, either clicking the link down below or scanning that little QR code will take you over there to get signed up to become a member today and help us keep on growing. Of course, all donations and super chats will be read 100% of the time on live shows. And so, of course, that is the best way to get your chats read on live shows. And then, of course, we've got merch shop as well, merchandise, a merch store, vocfb.com/shop. You can check out everything that the Voice of College Football has for you in terms of merch. I know one that I've got with me right now is my handy mug. It's hard to start a show without the handy dandy mug. I'm actually not going to be drinking from it tonight because it's empty now, but I've got my backup, so don't worry. But anyways, there's all kinds of amazing stuff over there, hats, t-shirts, and so much more to support the channel, support the network, help us keep on growing. Again, that link is vocfb.com/shop if you want to support the network and the show. So go over and check that out. But again, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, 2 free, easy, quick ways to support our channel, support our show, and support the entire network to help us keep on going, keep on growing. But let's get into it because like I mentioned, it was a crazy day for Oklahoma news. Of course, starting this morning when some big news broke, and we'll get to that, when a certain head coach in the state of Oklahoma was fired. No, not Brent Venables, another one. But then even bigger news for Oklahoma Sooners fans. Of course, we're going to start off with that because that really pertains to Oklahoma, at least the real Oklahoma, the one Oklahoma, the true Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Sooners. When the news broke about Oklahoma's quarterback, John Mateer, who's been leading this offense. He's a Heisman favorite and obviously a centerpiece for this 4-0 Oklahoma team who is now ranked number 7 in the AP poll. It was really shocking news to a lot, to many people. And I think if you weren't a little bit surprised or caught off guard with this news, if you don't think that this is big news, then you just haven't been paying attention. This was huge. He has suffered a broken bone in his right throwing hand, believed to be the thumb, right around that area. And the injury actually happened during Saturday's win over Auburn. It was actually fairly early in the first quarter when this happened, which is quite impeccable when you consider that he played the entire game after that. And not only that, but he even got better as the game went on. Of course, as we mentioned before, closing out with the last 15 of his 16 throws and 11 completions in a row at some point during that, and just overall the game-winning drive, of course, a game-winning touchdown, that late rushing touchdown from John Mateer. He ended up throwing for 271 yards, and of course that late rushing touchdown, but then also a passing touchdown to seal that 24-17 win over Auburn. So quite crazy when you consider the timing of when that happened. And I think that alone, I'm going to stop right there. I think that alone should keep Oklahoma fans a little bit optimistic about John Mateer's return. And I think that alone, knowing that he was able to finish the game with it actively being fractured, of course, going into surgery and getting that fixed is going to be a much different story. But having that fracture in your hand and finishing the game is quite impressive. Again, finishing the game with improving as the game went along. That second half was by far much better than what that first half looked for John Mateer. And so closing it out with a fractured hand, with whatever it was, a fracture in his hand. Again, like I said, I believe that was in the thumb, but still, just crazy that he was able to finish it out, which should give you some optimism about this, that if he was able to finish it, then maybe he's going to heal pretty quickly. Of course, hopefully this surgery goes well, and I'll get to more of that in just a moment. But after some evaluation, Oklahoma did mention today and broke the news to everybody that it was determined that he needed surgery, that this was going to be the best for his long-term and short-term, really just looking out for his short-term future and his long-term future and where he goes with his career. And of course, it's scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday, the 24th in Los Angeles. So they're getting him out there right away, getting him to get this surgery. And it is by a world-renowned doctor, Dr. Stephen Shin, who is a great, one of the nation's best hand and wrist specialists. And this name may sound familiar to some who are kind of freaks in that world. It wasn't to me, but after reading some about Dr. Stephen Shin, he's actually a world-renowned doctor and actually known even in the sports world because he's worked on guys with similar injuries, with guys like Drew Brees or even Steph Curry, Mike Trout, some big-name athletes that have gone to and trusted Dr. Stephen Shin. So that is very good news to know that Oklahoma's actually got the resources to get him into one of the world's best, not just the nation's best, but one of the world's best doctors, specifically in this part, where his fracture is. And so that should give us some ease to know that it should go very well with a doctor that is this experienced, especially this experienced with high-profile athletes even, and understanding the type of injuries that athletes go through and the type of rehab that they're going to need to get back out on the field. And he also understands the importance of getting him right and getting him back out there. So some really good news surrounding this terrible news, right? So, of course, the Sooners do say that John Mateer will be out about a month is what the time frame is. There's no real strict timetable, but the expectation is that he's going to return some point in this season. That means that he's going to miss some key games. That's what I'm going to say right now. Of course, a bye week this week, which is really good timing. And then Kent State, again, really good timing when you're okay with having to work out any kind of kinks in the run game. Allow Michael Hawkins Jr. to go out there and do his thing. So, I think this is a really good timing for all of this to happen. But the bad timing is that you are going to get into that Red River rivalry. And I'm going to break it to you right now. I know a lot of Oklahoma fans are trying to be optimistic about this. I think a lot of Oklahoma fans are hoping that, man, this could turn around. But by the way that the university is acting, at least the staff is acting, by the way that you look at how some of these things go down, I would not expect John Mateer to be back for that Texas game. Now, does that mean that Oklahoma's going to lose? I'll get to that. All right, I will get to more of the optimism behind this. I'm going to start off with the pessimism right now because I personally do not think that John Mateer will be back by the Texas game. And that sucks because Oklahoma fans have seen this. It's like a deja vu. It's like waking up from a bad nightmare to find out that you're still living it. You get into that Red River rivalry and you're finally feeling good about your team even at some points. You go back a few seasons ago, you're feeling good about where the team's going, and Dylan Gabriel's looking like he's clicking really well, and he's injured, and you don't have a backup to fall back on, and bam, there you are. You lose, again, not at full strength. And it's going to be misconstrued by Texas fans. Texas fans are already jumping on it and knowing that Oklahoma's going to have an excuse. No, it's a true reason too. I mean, there is a fine line that you have to draw to understand that there's a difference between excuses and reasoning. And, obviously that's one of them, of course, last year being another reasoning. You're not really at full strength. You're not at full strength anywhere. And then you don't even really have the guy that maybe, to my opinion, should have been in there as the starting in that game. At least the guy that was that was the starter to begin the season. So there's all kinds of things that you can look at there. Just, I am not expecting John Mateer to be in there. I don't think he will be in there for the South Carolina game either. I think Ole Miss will probably be his return. And, honestly, I don't think that's a terrible thing. I think that's about the time that he's going to return and about the time that Oklahoma feels really good, because I think Oklahoma can beat South Carolina just fine with the team that they've got without John Mateer. Texas is a different story. I think that's going to be a tougher matchup now without John Mateer, but I'll get to some of that. I do think that's still a winnable game, and there really isn't any excuse just because John Mateer is out because of Michael Hawkins and his experience. Again, we'll get to that. I'm not trying to jump ahead of myself, but if Ole Miss was the beginning of John Mateer's return, here's what you've got. You've got him for Ole Miss, who is a really good team this year, much better than I anticipated. And you've got him for Tennessee. Again, another team much better than I anticipated. Alabama, who's getting back on the right track and starting to look like Alabama should. And then Missouri, way better than I anticipated. Again, this is kind of a reoccurring theme. And then LSU, who I think is better than most give credit for. Better than most give credit for. And I will come out and say it. I didn't get my rankings out this week. I really wanted to, and I probably won't now that it's already Tuesday. I probably won't get my own personal rankings out there, but I will keep those up because I think I like putting it out there. I like seeing the reactions. I think everybody just overreacts thinking that my team should be ranked higher. But anyways, I have LSU as this week probably not the top team. Last week, I put them up there as the top team. This week, it seems like some teams have really separated themselves, and so I can really put a mixture of teams up there in the number one. I think numbers 1 through number 7 on my list were really just about as good as you can get to place them all at number 1. But LSU was my number 1 team because they have a defense this year. Their offense is struggling, I suppose, in some regard. They're not as good as they were in a couple of years past, but this is a team led by Brian Kelly that looks like a good Brian Kelly team. Therefore, that's why I'm higher on LSU. Anyways, I digress. This stretch is where Oklahoma needs him the most. I think Oklahoma, if they can go 1-1 in that Texas and South Carolina without John Mateer, 2-1 when you count State, which I think should be there. If you can go 2-1 there and you get John Mateer back for Ole Miss, Tennessee, Alabama, Missouri, and LSU, you have to still feel really good about at least a 10-2. And at 10-2, I think Oklahoma fans should feel ecstatic about, especially hanging your hat on the fact that you didn't have your key quarterback in for 3 games, your star quarterback. So I will say there's going to be some panic. And when you're talking about a guy with this stature, with the stats that John Mateer has put up so far this season, that you have to be a little worried, because let's not forget what John Mateer has done already throughout this season. Through four games, he's thrown for over 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's had 190 yards on the ground, and then 5 rushing touchdowns on top of that. And currently, the current longest streak for most games, that's 10 straight games with a passing and rushing touchdown. And you see why he's getting everyone's Heisman talk. Everyone's Heisman conversation revolves around John Mateer, and he's at the top of most people's Heisman list for a very good reason. Of course, now probably plummeting and dropping off of that list. I saw in many sports books where he's basically out of the top 10 now to win the Heisman. I think that might be a little premature, because who knows, maybe he is only out for 1 game and he returns for Texas. If that was the case, I think he soars right back up to the top, of course, depending on how well that performance against Texas is. But, this was an outstanding performance so far for John Mateer, who also was named SEC Player of the Week in Week 2 whenever Oklahoma took on Michigan, and he had an outstanding performance there and led them to victory. He has really led them all the way through this season to their victories. Of course, the defense being the top performers there, but he's been right there in the mix and really helping out and keeping this offense just consistent and coherent. That's really important. So what does this mean for Oklahoma? Where do they go now? Of course, everyone knows, everyone who has paid attention, everybody who knows a little bit about Oklahoma football knows that here comes Michael Hawkins Jr., the sophomore, who's going to get the starting nod for the Oklahoma Sooners while Mateer is sidelines. And it's a big opportunity for the young buck. It's a big opportunity for the young man who stepped in a season ago and I think earned a lot of Oklahoma fans' respect, because he stepped in, did not quiver. He showed some heart. He wasn't ready for the the opportunity, and I mentioned that. I was never hating on John Mateer, stuck in my head. I was never hating on Michael Hawkins Jr. a season ago. I just didn't think that he was ready. I didn't think that the spotlight might have been too bright for him. It's just that I don't think that he was ready to be thrown in the fire just yet. I see the potential, though. I see the heart. I see where he could lead this team and what he could do for this team. And that's why I think Oklahoma fans need to be a little calm and collective about this, and understanding that this is a guy that has seen plenty of SEC play. He's seen the Plains at Jordan-Hare. He has seen the Texas defense. He's also seen the worst side of South Carolina's defense. I mean, the worst side in terms of the best that South Carolina's defense has thrown at him. So that being said, I think Michael Hawkins Jr. is ready for this moment. Now, I do go back to a couple of games ago. I didn't think he really looked good whenever he came in against Temple. Although he wasn't in there for very long, and he didn't really get to showcase too much. He didn't really get a whole lot of attempts to throw the ball. He didn't really get a wide open playbook the way that John Mateer does. So I will give some leniency there. But I do think that Michael Hawkins Jr., as much as they've talked about him, and you even have to think about how Brent Venables feels about Michael Hawkins Jr. and even Ben Arbuckle. They've both given him high praise about his toughness, his determination. They feel confident in him, and how they've been giving him reps in practice as if they're preparing him for this exact moment. And so, of course, that will come to fruition, and we'll see how much that preparation has really shown off. Of course, not this week, but next week against Kent State. And then the biggest test, if he is playing against Texas, does he get a redemption game against Texas to show who Michael Hawkins Jr. really is? Because I know that the stats that you see from Michael Hawkins Jr. a season ago does not go to show who he is as a football player. The player that you saw on the field last year, when you just look at the performance, is not who Michael Hawkins Jr. is. The glimpses that you got, the small glimpse that you got here and there on the field from Michael Hawkins Jr., that is the player that we know. The huge 40-some yard touchdown, it might have been longer than that, so forgive me if I'm underselling him there. The big touchdown, his first career touchdown, or I guess not his first career touchdown, because I believe he scored against Tennessee. So again, forgive me for forgetting some of what happened last season, but we've all tried to erase that out of our memories. But the big touchdown against Auburn, his first starting experience, and going to Jordan-Hare and performing that well at Auburn a season ago, I do think that he was a big part of that win. I do think he was a big part of that victory. And, I think he showed a lot of poise in that moment. And again, going back to the Tennessee game when he came in the second half, it showed the type of poise that he has. It shows the type of player that he is. He does have that grit. He does have the ability to go out there and make big plays. And so I think Oklahoma fans can take a little bit of a chill pill, I guess you might say. They can step back and just relax a little bit, knowing that Michael Hawkins Jr. will take over in the meantime, and he is just fine. He will be just fine. And so I think Oklahoma fans can be a little bit calm knowing that that's the case. A little bit of optimism for Oklahoma, as they know that John Mateer is not going to be in for at least one, maybe 2 or 3 games, and who knows, maybe even more than that, is that I don't really look at this offense and think that this offense is what's winning these games for Oklahoma so far. This is an offense, again, if you go back to the 2 Power 4 teams that they've played in, Michigan and Auburn, really hasn't put up any kind of eye-catching or total awe stats. It's not these kind of stats that you're looking at that says that they can run all over any defense. In fact, they can't run to save their lives, it seems. And they're not really throwing up these huge stat lines against any defense. They're able to find some kinks in the armor. They're able to find some weak points, and they're able to get down there and score enough to win games. But again, you go to the Auburn game where you scored 24. And then what was it against? Was it 27 against Michigan? So you're scoring in the mid-20s. It's not like this is an offense that's scoring 40 on these high-powered defenses, these powerful defenses. They're controlling the ball. They're not giving it up and going 3 and out immediately like they were a season ago. And the defense is standing tall. The defense knows that they can put the ball in the offense's hands and have some hope. With John Mateer, you have a lot of hope. I don't think that hope goes completely away with Michael Hawkins Jr. back there. But this defense is head and toes better, head and shoulders better, I should say. They are so much better than what we saw a season ago. And you can say that maybe the skill is better. I don't think that's the case, because if you look at the skill a season ago, I just don't think the skill is better. I think in some areas, Oklahoma's actually weaker at skill points, because you've got a couple of freshmen, that are having to step up in key roles. You've got guys that really haven't played a whole lot in recent years, such as Gentry Williams. I'm not talking any of them down. They are performing amazing. But this is a defense that, again, I think that the stats that you see on defense are so much better this year because of what the offense is doing. It's a complementary football in the way that Oklahoma wished that they could play a season ago. And so this defense, fourth best scoring defense in the nation, okay? I mean, this is the best defense in the SEC, one of the best, if not the best. Chad and I were talking about this on Sunday. I don't know a defense that I would rather pick over Oklahoma's defense. Now, is there a specific group that I might take over Oklahoma's group? Maybe I would swap a group or so. But honestly, the way that the cohesion is over on that defensive side of the ball, that might be a mistake. First, this is a defense that is first in the nation in third down defense. Tied for 16th in fourth down defense, only allowing one touchdown of 4 attempts. So they've only allowed 1 touchdown, and I believe that was against Auburn. That was against Auburn. So they've only allowed 1 touchdown one touchdown. Not even touchdowns. We're not talking red zone. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead in my notes here. But tied 16th, so fourth down defense, only allowed 1 first down on fourth down. So again, this is a very good defense. Going on 14th in the nation in first down defense. This is a team that is 7th in the nation in passing yards allowed. 9th in the nation in passing efficiency allowed. 8th in the nation in scoring defense. Tied first in team sacks, 6th in tackles for loss, 4th in total defense. I mean, this is an outstanding defense. This is a top 10 in every major category defense. This is why I think Oklahoma fans can be pretty relaxed with knowing that, yes, you don't have your star playmaker over on offense in John Mateer. He is going to be out for a game or 2, or maybe even 3 or 4. But that doesn't mean that Oklahoma's playoff hopes are completely out the window. I do think that some fans are being a little too optimistic and dreaming that John Mateer can come back sooner than I think he will. Like I said, my expectation is hopefully he can come back by Ole Miss. That's the game that if he comes back by Ole Miss, I'm feeling pretty good about Oklahoma's chances throughout this season. But to expect any sooner, I think, would almost maybe not be delusional. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's just a little too optimistic for my liking. But that's okay that you're going to be without him for 2, 3, or even 4 games, because you have this kind of a defense. Tell me that with Michael Hawkins Jr., Oklahoma can't still score 20 points, because I think even with Michael Hawkins Jr., Oklahoma can score 20 points. 24 points is about what I would expect this offense on any given week to be able to score on any defense. Yes, including Texas's defense. Do I think that any team in the nation, yes, including Texas's, can score 20-plus points on Oklahoma's defense? It's possible, but I wouldn't put money on it, because this is a damn good defense. And so Oklahoma fans have every right to, I'll say overreact, but I don't think it's an overreaction when it's John Mateer going down and coming off the field. It is your play caller. It is a huge deal. So do fans have the right to be upset or be down or be pessimistic about John Mateer's departure with this injury and going through this surgery? Yes, but they have every right to. But do they have some peace in knowing that they have a defense that is this good, and knowing that even with Michael Hawkins Jr. in there, this offense will not be that bad? And I'm saying as bad as they were a season ago. I think that Oklahoma's just fine. Now, will they lose a game where maybe they could have won it if John Mateer was in there with his confidence, with his composure, with his aura and going out there? Yes, I think that's possible. And Texas is probably one of them. If I'm looking at Kent State, Texas, and South Carolina, that's the one that I'm most concerned about. But do I think that Oklahoma's just out of it because John Mateer's not in there? No. This is a really good defense, and Oklahoma will be just fine, even though they are without their key guy over on offense in John Mateer. I'm going to go on, but first want to remind everybody, if you want to support the show, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and you can become a member on on YouTube for as low as $2.99 a month. Just either scan that QR code over there or click the link down in the description below. If you're watching on X, jump over to the YouTube stream real quick because we are going to be cutting that X stream. So if you're watching on X, we appreciate you for tuning in. Jump over to YouTube and just search Oklahoma VOCFB, all one word, Oklahoma VOCFB. Check us out over there, and I hope to see you over on that side. But we will be cutting that X stream right now. All right, so anyways, moving on. I think it's ridiculous for fans to be worried about any other team, whether it be in conference or whether it be, I don't know. I think it's silly. I think it's weird when teams are worried about their rivals to the point where, for example, I saw many, and I guess I'm not going to call out names. I don't really care to call out some names out there, but there are many Texas beat writers, guys that cover Texas, that are out there and posting about Oklahoma, about John Mateer, about, and not even, I'm talking before the news today. It was just the fact that John Mateer's having a really good season and they just can't accept that. And they're trying to make it out to be that John Mateer's not as good as Arch Manning. And I think that is just ridiculous. I think it's silly. I think any of them that are kind of going through that, I mean, I just don't understand it. But anyways, there are Texas beat writers out there that are so focused on Oklahoma and inside Texas, they're calling Oklahoma cheaters. They're so concerned with what Oklahoma was doing on the field against Auburn. Instead of just writing about their own team, they had to write about another team that had nothing to do with them at all, not even the slightest bit. And I just find that really weird. And of course, I'm going to talk about the beat writers and who's writing this, because I think it's just weird that they're mentioning the team that I'm covering. I talk about Oklahoma. I talk about Oklahoma football. I talk about Oklahoma sports, and that's what I cover. Why would I care what Texas did? And I might mention something maybe in looking ahead and maybe in passing thought about Texas, or if a Texas fan were to jump up in our live chat, something like that. But no, why would I sit there and cover an event that happened for Texas when I'm an Oklahoma sports coverage guy? That just doesn't make sense. So the fact that they're doing it the other way, and I can probably pull this up real quick too, just because why not? Just to show this, I can show some, but I can't show as much as I'm sure. Oh, you know what? No, I won't be able to show it here. So anyways, I will pull something up for you guys real quick. So just to show this, and I guess I've got to share that screen over here real quick. So this is an actual headline right here, and hopefully you guys can see that well. And I'll do that just to kind of blow it up a little bit more. I'm not signed in over here, so I'm not going to be able to show you the article, nor would I want to. They make money off this article, so I'm not going to. See, they're even trying to get me to sign up and even sign up for Apple TV, all this fun stuff. But I'm not going to, because they want you to pay to read the article. But I will give you a breakdown. This article is titled, "Oklahoma deliberately cheated to beat Auburn. What should be done about it?" So they are so concerned at Texas beat writing to talk about what should be done to Oklahoma because they cheated. First of all, we'll get into that. We'll get into the whole cheating aspect of things. But Oklahoma deliberately cheated to beat Auburn. What should be done about it? All right. Well, I think what should be done about it is you write about your team. I think you cover your team. But anyways, key points of this article, talking about some of the bad officiating, missed DPIs, the bad reviews, etc. There was all kinds of stuff. Of course, bringing up the Gentry Williams missed call on Gentry Williams, the pass interference on Cam Coleman should have been called. I agree, should have been called. Even the bad reviews, like the Isaiah Satania fumble. I guess we'll talk about the first one. He had two. That the first one reviewed, overturned because they called it an incomplete pass. Everybody's saying, "See, he did fumble it. See, look, the ball's out right now." Nobody's really arguing that it was whether it was an incomplete pass or not. At least everything that I've seen from the people crying about it, they're not looking at that. I do think it was an incomplete pass, first and foremost. Do I think it should have been overturned? No, that's a completely different thing. I think that was kind of crazy to overturn it. And I could go further in depth in that if you would like me to, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it. The other one, he was talking a little bit about the fumble on the sidelines. So it was literally a fumble. So it was called an incomplete pass. They went back and looked. And if that was in the middle of the field, I talked about this with Chad. If that was in the middle of the field, then 100% that would have been considered a fumble. And Auburn fans would have thrown a fit if it was not a fumble, and rightfully so. So if that's the case, how is that now just not a fumble just because it's over, out of bounds? I look at that. I think it's completely ridiculous. And I don't understand it. Don't understand it at all. But anyways, I digress. He's talking about all these different calls, whatever, all of that. It's a part of football, he says, but this is a different case. Oklahoma practiced and executed a fake substitution play, he says. I'm realizing now, too, that I don't think we are live on YouTube. Let me check here real quick. All right, so we are live. I just wanted to make sure, because somebody was saying that they weren't seeing it. And so just wanted to make sure that we ended up getting that in there. But it looks like we should be good. All right. But anyways, this article, it was just a silly article to me. I thought everything was just kind of ridiculous. But anyways, he says that Oklahoma practiced and executed a fake substitution play designed to trick Auburn, kind of skirt past officiating, direct violation of the rules, marked illegal even in the offseason, blah, blah, blah. Bob Stoops even confirmed it, that it was a rehearsed play. It was a rehearsed play, and that's what Bob Stoops was saying. And it is kind of... It's a trick play. It is. I mean, based on the way that it's designed, it is a trick play. Nobody's saying that it's not a trick play. It is to deceive you, just like a play action pass is to deceive you. All of that stuff. Anyways, moving on. SEC officials in the league office failed to act in game despite having the president to call authority to call back the touchdown, penalize Oklahoma, blah, blah, blah. He goes on even talking about how the Oklahoma coaches are rationalizing this as just a ball play despite knowing that it wasn't, and trying to make anything. Anyways, just goes on talking about how Oklahoma, they cheated. And Wadlington, I'll call him Wynington. Wadlington. I don't remember. I didn't even write his first name. Should have written his first name. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. Just because Paul Wadlington. Okay, this is the guy that wrote the article, and I'm going to call him out. I'm not an On3 employee, so I have no obligation to hold back on this. Just ridiculous. It's a stupid article to begin with. Not only that, but you're not even covering your own team, which people pay you to cover. I'm sure Texas fans love this because they worry too much about Oklahoma. But anyways, goes on to saying that without accountability, the sport's just losing its integrity. It's going to descend into outright lawlessness. He says that the only meaningful consequence that would prevent repeat violations is vacating the win. So I say all of this just to get down to the point that he's trying to make. The way that you get right with Oklahoma is to vacate their win against Auburn. What? Like where? Okay, so let's vacate the win. What does that do for you? People still saw the game. People still saw Oklahoma outperform Auburn. You can say that the officiating affected the game. You cannot say that Auburn would have won because it's all what ifs. It is all what ifs. That's absolutely crazy to me. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. I will pull this up real quick because Toby Rowland actually ended up putting this post out there, this tweet. He ended up saying, according to a source in its regular pregame meeting with game officials, the OU staff brought up the planned play, the Satania touchdown, and sought confirmation that it was illegal. So they explained this play and how it is going to follow an inside run. Satania is going to walk out towards the sideline, and it is deception. It is a trick play in some sense. And I saw some even trying to say, and I don't know if this is true or not, or if it was just Deion Burks doing his thing, but that maybe it was even in the plan for Deion Burks to be talking smack to the defender. I don't know if that was actually a design, like, hey, Deion, we need you to. I don't know about that. That is what they were mentioning in the booth, that, hey, Deion was doing this, and he's kind of out there talking smack, drawing the defender in. The main thing with Deion Burks is that he's drawing the attention because he's normally the outside guy, and he's now lined up inside, but they don't see the outside guy walking, not jogging, not acting like calling over the sideline, not even looking at the people on the sideline in any kind of interpretation that he would be coming off the field. He points to the ref, lines up, the ref says he's good, and he runs his route. I don't understand the whole, it's an illegal play. It will not make sense to me. The SEC officiating crew was wrong, according to a lot of you guys, in the game. How can they not be wrong outside of the game? That's the other thing that is just absolutely crazy to me. But this was proved to be a legal play with the league office before they ran this. So with the officiating crew, they told the officiating crew, this is how we design it. What is our parameters? And they told him, just as long as he's not doing this, and he didn't do that, therefore they're allowed to run it. So Oklahoma's, first of all, they're not cheaters. I'm getting annoyed with even talking about this. It's just that Texas wants to write about it. Texas wants to vacate a win from Oklahoma so bad that their beat writers are out there writing on one of the largest college football platforms, the college football media platforms. It's just, it's stupid. It's cringe. It's ridiculous at this point. So whatever. Yeah, Texas fans can keep on crying that Oklahoma got a more meaningful win than they have all season. We'll see. It comes down to October 10th. Did I get that date correctly? So it'll come down to that. I think that's ultimately what matters the most. So there's a few others that we could go through. There's all these Arch Manning versus Mateer comparisons. You've got several people that literally their job is to cover Texas football, and they sit there and some not even comparing him to Arch. They're just stating things, trying to trash talk John Mateer. But it's mind-boggling. I know some Oklahoma fans, some Oklahoma people sit here and talk about Arch Manning. I haven't talked about Arch Manning unless it comes up in conversation. Haven't posted about Arch Manning unless it's something really big. And I think I might have actually posted something about Arch Manning and saying something about how good he looked at one point. I'll have to go back and look. But I do remember talking about it. Hey, I actually see something here, and talked about that a little bit. But ultimately, just absolutely silly to me that Texas beat writers are sitting here calling for a vacation of Oklahoma's win. Anyways, John Mateer being injured is not the only big news for the state of Oklahoma. That is not the only big news that went down tonight. It is also earlier this morning where we found out that Oklahoma State ended up getting rid of Mike Gundy. Now, I kind of question even talking too much about this because I'm not really sure, but I do know that Oklahoma fans are interested more or less in just who some of the candidates might be. I am interested in Bedlam being fired back up one more time. I'm interested in that being fired up, not one more time, but I would like to see that continue. As much as I've talked kind of trash in the past about the rivalry, quote unquote rivalry, it is a rivalry between fans and even between schools. And so I would like that rivalry to come back. And also, this is just huge news that Mike Gundy ended up being fired from Oklahoma State and mid-season at that. Now, is it a shock? No, he only won 3 games a season ago, not a single conference game, and then got completely murdered and bent over backwards by Oregon, and then loses at home, I believe, against Tulsa. Losing to Tulsa. that's bad enough, especially for an Oklahoma team. So some of the names that have been thrown out there, and this is really what I wanted to get down to, and so it's something that I'm just interested in. I am interested because I want Oklahoma State to, I don't know if you say get back, because I don't know if they've ever been there, but I want them to be somewhat relevant, because I would like Bedlam to be renewed. I would like Oklahoma to play Oklahoma State for that rivalry to be rekindled one more time. But G.J. Kinney, Texas State head coach, he's one that was brought up, kind of a fast rising young coach, strong recruiting ties to Texas and the region. Of course, that would be a good pickup for them. Even got an offensive background, even led Texas State to some of its best records, honestly, too. And so he's one name that's been thrown out there. Colin Klein, who we should recognize if you were in the Big 12. He's currently the Texas A&M offensive coordinator, former K-State QB, and also a rising offensive coordinator in the game of college football, ties to the Big 12. He's seen a lot of potential as a candidate of being a head coach here recently, and so very excited. I think that would be a good pickup. There's a lot of these names I think would all be good. Barry Odom, the Purdue head coach, former Missouri head coach. I think that's another guy that, again, some ties, some recruiting ties specifically to that Southwest region, and that, which is important to Oklahoma State, and of course to the Big 12 as well, and also some experiences as a successful Group of 5 head coach as well. And then, of course, now with Purdue head coaching experience too. So Eric Morris, the North Texas head coach, of course, the Texas native, air raid offensive background. He's kind of shown some success being able to build smaller programs in that region. But then, of course, some of that Texas familiarity, being able to have some ties down there. Another guy is Dana Holgerson, former West Virginia, Houston head coach. Currently a coordinator with Nebraska, offensive coordinator. And, of course, with all his prior head coaching positions and his experience, it's a guy that's being thrown in there. Zach Robinson, the Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator, former Oklahoma State quarterback. This is the one that really jumped off the page to me and seems to make a lot of sense, especially knowing how Oklahoma State likes the Oklahoma State ties. This one makes a lot of sense to me. He's an NFL coach right now with some ties to the program, of course, having played there. He's kind of got quite a bit of a buzz around him as well, just being that offensive coordinator there for the Falcons, and he's had a little bit of buzz being a candidate for other head coaching jobs as well. A few other names that I've seen that don't really jump out on paper as much. I know Ben Arbuckle. That's the main reason why I brought this up. Ben Arbuckle was thrown in there. I just don't see it. I don't think the Oklahoma State head coaching job is really that enticing right now, or even just as far as a brand goes. I just don't think it's really that enticing. Oklahoma State fans will throw a fit about that, but prove it. I just don't think it's extremely enticing at a national level, and Ben Arbuckle has opportunities lined up ahead of him for sure, especially with the kind of season that he's having and the impression that he's making at Oklahoma. The Penn State offensive coordinator right now, Andy, I'm not even going to... Kotelnicki. I'm trying to remember how to say his last name. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments. Gary Patterson, former TCU coach. I don't know if he's still an analyst at Texas, but I know he was at one point. Brett Vegan, Montana State. Jason Candle, Toledo head coach right now. Jeff Monken, Army head coach. That would be an interesting one. And then also Jeff Traylor, UTSA head coach. I've seen a lot of other names popped out as well. USF's head coach, and I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. That was another one that I saw kind of jump out, but there's a lot of candidates. Big news in Oklahoma when that happened. And so Mike Gundy was tied to the program and a legend at that. But outside of just being tied to the program, I never understood why anybody liked Mike Gundy. And it's not even just as an Oklahoma fan, I don't think. I never saw real true potential of winning a national championship with him. I never thought that was ever going to be the case. So, sayonara. So long. And have a good retirement, I suppose. Hard to really feel bad about guys that are getting paid millions of dollars just to leave and go relax and have a good retirement. But anyways, yeah, that's all that we've got for Oklahoma State. Some big recruiting news, some buzz kind of jumping out for the Oklahoma Sooners right now. I would love to get into some of that because, the recruiting season really never ends. Even though we may not talk about it as often in some areas, Oklahoma is a favorite for a couple of big ones that I've seen jump up here as of recent. One of those being a top favorite to land the 2027 four-star edge rusher Crew Jones. He actually announced a loaded top 12 teams, loaded teams for being as many as there are, but then also loaded in terms of just the weight of these programs and the teams that are out there to try to go get him. It includes teams, of course, Oklahoma, along with powerhouse programs like Ohio State, Oregon, Florida State, Nebraska, USC, BYU, Stanford, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Washington. So a bunch of big name programs, some programs that very well could persuade him one way or the other, but Oklahoma's made it a very early recruiting move for him, trying to pull him in the 2027 class. They really hold a strong position right now, too. And they're trying to bring him in, and he's a top recruit in Utah, top recruit in the nation. Obviously, he's a high priority for Oklahoma among many other teams as well. But Oklahoma, they're in a really good spot early, which is where you want to be. You want to get your foot in the door early, have time that even if he were to make an early decision, that you've got time to flip that decision later on, which of course we're seeing them do with a few other guys here as of recent. I think with all these blue blood programs and even the in-state programs like BYU, while they're strong contenders, I think Oklahoma is in a very good position from what I'm reading, from what I'm seeing, from what I'm hearing, to be able to land Crew Jones. Another one that Oklahoma fans should be pretty excited about in the terms of recruiting is the fact that there's a California quarterback on the list in 2027. Of course, Bo Bentley coming in 2026 and expected to stay with that decision coming in 2026. It seems like over a year that Oklahoma's been expected to land Peyton Houston, but of course his LSU commitment came kind of searching for a new quarterback in that 2027 class, and Oklahoma was really kind of caught off guard in many ways whenever Peyton Houston decided to flip his commitment over. Not really flip it, but that decision seemed like it was narrowing down to Oklahoma, and it seemed like they were the front runners with maybe a couple of others there in the race, but not LSU. And LSU came in the midnight hour, took him away. And of course, now they're going after California quarterback Jaden Jefferson, a Sacramento State commit as of June 12th of this year. He's from Cathedral High School in Los Angeles. He visited Oklahoma with a teammate, Quentin Hale, as well. Very interesting there. He really praised Oklahoma, kind of citing the history that Oklahoma's got. He talked about the new offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, his system, what he sees there, what he likes about that. And of course, kind of being able to put himself in the same category as smaller quarterbacks that Oklahoma has had success with, such as Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, and of course with John Mateer, who's really not that tall of a guy. He's at 5'9". Jaden Jefferson. He's 5'9", considered kind of, a question by some evaluators, but of course with a lot of offensive-minded coaches who see guys like Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield, even what John Mateer's doing, they see a lot of good things here, and he's got a lot of other abilities that really stand out on paper too. And so currently rated as a 3-star, but he's only in his junior year, so I'm sure that will probably change with as many other teams that are reaching out. Sacramento State right now too, for those of you who don't know, are kind of on a tear for a very good reason over there. So Jaden Jefferson, he is planning on making a few more additional trips to Oklahoma before he makes that decision. And then, of course, he wants to build further connections with the program, but he also does have some long-standing relationship with OU's personnel director, Stacy Ford, which is how I'm assuming they got in touch and kind of got that offer out to him and how they came onto his radar. So very excited to see where that ends up going. I think Oklahoma feels really good about their chances to be able to pull his commit in. And again, since Peyton Houston has now turned his commitment and made that commitment to LSU, they're looking for a new guy. And it sure seems like Jaden Jefferson could be that guy for the Oklahoma Sooners in the 2027 class. But that is all that I've got for you guys today. Of course, like I said, don't hang your head too low. Know that just because John Mateer is injured, it's not the end of the world. This is a great defense. I'm looking forward to it. It's a bye week, so not a whole lot going this week. But of course, you can always tune in here on Oklahoma, the voice of college football, on Tuesdays and Thursdays with myself at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then again, post game on Saturdays. Sundays, we're going to be live at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, so tune in then as well. And then, of course, Mondays, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time with the Sooner Smiths, with Chad and Tierney over there. So we're giving you guys content on Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays post-game. So make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell as well, so that it'll remind you when we have new content released, all of that fun stuff. But of course, if you want to help support the channel a little bit further, either scan that QR code that's on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, or click that link that is down in the description below. That is to sign up to become a member for as low as $2.99 a month. Of course, we also have a merch store that's open now with all kinds of amazing merch, mugs, hats, t-shirts, hoodies, so much more, and we will keep on building as we see the support rolling in. So go check that out. That is vocfb.com/shop. vocfb.com/shop. Go check it out. Very excited for getting past and through this bye week, especially with some of the terrible news that we've seen so far. But like I said, don't hang your head too low. Have a great rest of your week, and we will catch you next time.